Hey, welcome back everybody. It's Matthew, Watty's channel. Today we are continuing on with the my least favorite WWF LJN tournament. This is round 2, part 2, and actually the last video for round 2. So, last 8 men standing for this round. We're going to have one more 4-to-4 man matchup. And, yeah, I mean, shoot, round 3 should only take about 1 video. So, round 3, 1 video, round 4, 1 video. Round 5, if I choose to put that with round 4 for the semifinals and finals. I mean, we're already almost done. Alright guys, so we are going to dive right into the tournament, and as per usual, we're going to select the names at random. So, matchup number 1 is going to feature Steve Williams as he does battle against Ric Flair. Next up is going to feature Haku, and he is going to do battle against Jimmy Snuka. Followed by Bob Orton taking on Dingle Warrior. And finally, Ivan Putski taking on Mike Sharp. You see, that one right there sucks. Because both those last two guys, they're, like I said, that's the one frustration about these tournaments, is especially when you look at them at random, it's luck of the draw. It's going to tell you who your favorite figure is, who your least favorite figure is, etc. But it's not going to tell you who your number 2 favorite is, who your number 3 favorite, 10 favorite is. And that's really what it should be. It should be your top 10 favorite figures should all be in the last 10. Your top 10 least favorite figures should be in the top 10. I know both Mike Sharp and Ivan Putski are definitely, you know, in that area where they should be like semi-finalists, easy. But luck of the draw pits them against each other, so we're not going to see them, you know, we're not going to see one of them move forward. Alright, so once again, I do have all these figures laid out right in front of me, so we will be able to pull them. Steve Williams versus Ric Flair. And we will start with Steve Williams. I said before, when I saw this figure, I was not impressed with Random Treasures. It wasn't exactly, in my opinion, a great figure, not in the least. Kind of looking at him in the last round, I think I might enjoy it a lot more than I had been giving it credit for. And I kind of felt the same way about Iron Sheik. I think maybe what part of it has to do with the fact that I've been classifying these as such bad figures, and now I've got them as part of a bad figure competition, and I'm looking at all of these horrible figures, and now all of a sudden some of the not so bad figures are appearing to be so much better than they are. That could be a reason, I don't know, but Steve Williams, I mean, he's got a bulkiness that I like. He's got color scheme that I really can appreciate. You know, head sculpt looks pretty freaking amazing. So, do I really have to hate on this figure? I mean, it's not a good figure. It's not a great figure. I would say this figure's okay. It's a nice figure. It's an okay figure. Good figure. Good figure. Borders on 5 out of 10, right? Great figure. Borders on 7, maybe 8 out of 10. Okay figure. Usually hovers around, or a nice figure usually hovers around 4 out of 10, 4.5 out of 10, right? So, I don't know, it's tough. Another thing is name recognition. I don't know Dr. Death Steve Williams. I mean, now as a collector and, you know, getting back in wrestling and everything, yeah, the name, you know, means something, or it pops up every now and then, but, like, I don't remember watching him at all. I mean, if he went by another gimmick or something that maybe I could have, like, maybe understood. Like, The Good Father, right? Or Godfather. I had no idea that was the same person as Papa Shango. I had no idea that Kama Mustafa were Papa Shango once upon a time. So, getting into collecting has, obviously enlightened me as far as different characters and who they portrayed. So that's something. But Steve Williams, it's a good figure, or it's an okay figure. Not one of my elites. Otherwise, he would not be in this tournament. And he squares off against Ric Flair. In round 1, I was not able to pass on the purple Tito Santana. Tito Santana to me is an absolute horrible, horrible figure. One of the top 10 worst LJN figures ever made. But that Tito Santana figure squared off against someone that was even worse, which I didn't think was possible. My buddy Eric, he put some effort into this, there's no doubt. He gave it a new color scheme that I was not very familiar with. This is probably like old NWA days or something, but the head mold is, I don't know who he got the head sculpt from, but he did an excellent job, because when you look at this neck and you look around, you really can't see that it's been ever chopped off and reutilized. So it just looks like a natural figure. Problem is, he went with a Tito Santana figure, and I said it before. When I was in Iraq, and he offered these figures. He's like, hey, I got these new figures up. Do you want them? I had to think about that for a long time. Like, I spent like a week thinking about it before I finally pulled the trigger and acquired them. I acquired this, Abdul the Butcher, and I can't remember what the third figure was, but to be honest, I had no interest in it. But at that time, and for a long time, I was buying up anything that was Wrestling Writer related. So I was happy to get it, but not really. I was kind of like indifferent. I'm like, okay, it's another figure to add to the collection, but nothing super special. And now here I am putting 32 of the worst figures that I own together between customs and original figures. And here he is in round 2. Now, Ric Flair, in of himself, not exactly someone I cared about as a child. As an adult, I kind of feel the same way. Like, I'm not like all Ric Flair, enlightened or whatever. As an adult, I definitely appreciate his legacy and his accomplishments. I mean, I think he's got probably one of the most impressive resumes as a wrestler known to man. I mean, we're not just talking NWA and WCW heavyweight champion, WWF heavyweight champion. He was in AWA, if I'm not mistaken. He wrestled in China, in Japan. So the man was just all over the world. So, and the man had like 24 championships. Insane. So, I never really liked his personality. Especially when he was kind of beefing with Macho Man. And then, he kept flirting with Elizabeth. And one of the biggest things that I was surprised in is that him kissing Elizabeth and not having Macho Man in real life beat the living snot out of him for that. Because, Macho Man, you see his jealousy around the ring. And to learn that wasn't an act, he was actually like that in real life. Very overprotective of Elizabeth. So, the fact that Ric Flair had the balls to go and put his lips on Macho Man's wife was, like, insane to think about. Yeah, this is just a bad figure. I mean, guys, I don't know if this would necessarily have moved past round 2 if he had faced anyone else, but this is an absolute no-brainer. I didn't think I would ever have a Wrestling Writer figure on my least favorite list ever. Now, I have done my top 10 favorite and a top 10 my least favorite Wrestling Writer figures in the past, but the only reason I made that list is because I had so many Wrestling Writer figures, and, it was, like, still in the early going of my channel, and I wanted to kind of create new content and kind of have people see, well, hey, if this is the worst figure, or if that's number 8 worst, this guy must be pretty freaking awesome. So I think it really helped Eric in the long run, because I'm pretty sure other people saw those videos and reached out to get some customization done. It just so happens that this one right here, I'm not a huge fan. Alright, so Ric Flair. And then we said Haku versus Jimmy Snuka. I think these guys are part of the same family, if I'm not mistaken. I think Jimmy Snuka may have actually married into the family or something. Jimmy Snuka is such a simple figure. I mean, this is exactly how I remember him, but they could have done better. I mean, how do they give you killer abs and make you so super thin? Like, that doesn't seem natural. I do like the little muscle tone in the back, though. That's pretty insane. But like I said, a simple figure, ultra thin. I really don't see how, a figure like this. Like, imagine getting these 5 figures in 1984. Yeah, your Hogan on Andre, your Hogan on Stud could work beautifully, right? Imagine putting Jimmy Snuka in a matchup against Andre the Giant or Big John Studd. Big John Studd, I think, is the heaviest figure, or maybe second to Bundy, I'm not sure. But that figure is so big and bulky, and then you put this little lightweight thing. I don't understand how kids could have ever had any enjoyment from it. Terrible design, and about 7 years later or so, 6 or 7 years later, when they came out with the Series 2 Hasbro Jimmy Snuka, I mean, they did not improve that figure much either. This man gets no respect. But I can understand, man. This man was actually accused of murder. I'm trying to think who it was. Was it his girlfriend or something? Wife? I don't remember, man. There's just so much freaking information that's gone through my mind. And then as I acquired new information, like I said, old information just gone. But not an enjoyable figure, not one bit. Yeah. You think about this. I hate spending money on figures I don't enjoy. So with LJN, it's like you don't like Jimmy Snuka, you're going to have to buy it regardless because you want to complete the whole collection. And I talked about it with like Rick Rude, for example. Rick Rude on Black Card is like a $1,500, $2,000 figure. And it really isn't. On auction, I think that thing should sell for like $600. I think on auction I've seen it sell for $700, $800, $900. But, when people list it at $1,500, $2,000, it's crazy. I would probably spend that money only, well, if I didn't already have it, only because it's a Black Card figure. And that's literally the only reason. But the figure itself is like, eh. Jimmy Snuka at one point became the highest amount of money I spent on a figure at one point. When I purchased my card of Jimmy Snuka, I spent like $750 on it. And this to me was, well, also because the guy that sold it to me said that there was some issues with the card and that he was going to reimburse me $100, but he never did. So SOL on my part. Just not a good figure. The only thing that's saving this figure is that Haku is an equally terrible figure. And do I covet Haku more than Jimmy Snuka? I really don't have as much memory, or I don't know. I don't think I was a super fan of Jimmy Snuka either. But I did know of Jimmy Snuka. I watched him a lot. And yeah, I played with this Hasbro figure all the time. So I think Jimmy Snuka does mean a little bit more to me than Haku. Haku, at least they're both barefooted people, so you don't have any shoes or boots or anything to go off of. But the pants design is amazing. That is a huge upgrade to the figure. Head sculpt, pretty solid. This figure actually, now he is original Haku, but I won this guy on auction for like $90 or something. And the only reason I got this figure so cheap is because I swear to God, his freaking face was like eaten off or something. It's like somebody, I don't know, if it was like a dog chewed on it, or if somebody took the figure, put it on a stove or a lighter and just burnt his face off. I sent this to my buddy Rob Jackson. I talk about him all the time because, let's be honest, guys, if you're looking for awesome customization or anything like that, you want new paintwork done, he's one of the best in the business, I think. So yeah, he got a new head, and you can't even tell that that it's not original. Now there is a slight brown paint differentiation from the skin, but come on, unless you're like, if you're looking at it from a distance, right? You're not gonna tell. You gotta be like all on there to even to notice it. So he did an amazing job with this, and thinking $90 for that, probably, I don't know what I paid, $30 for him to kind of fix this for me. Shoot, otherwise I would have ended up paying, in this condition, I probably would have paid like $400 for it, right? So, you know what? If you have people out there that do customization and they do really good work, yeah, go for the damaged figures and see if you can get them, get one of your buddies to fix them up for you. Awesome work on this, but Haku, once again, among the original LJN line, is one of my top 10 least favorite figures. And it's simply because of the stupid arm pose. Like, you can't really... The way that his arms are posed, it's like he's like a Sting, you know? He does like the little Sting toss over. But you can't do a real solid body slam, because what happens? You're going to have to stretch out the arms to get that body pose or body slam positioning. And you're going to start cracking the paint job and whatnot. So, to me, I want to say that he's essentially an unusable figure for the most part. Can you get more enjoyment from him from a Jimmy Snuka? 1,000,000%. The only thing I could imagine using him is with Andre the Giant, you know? What were they called? I keep thinking Colossal Connection, but that's not it. And I just had the name a little while ago because I was talking about them. And now I can't freaking remember. And it's killing me. But anyways, he is a much better figure than Jimmy Snuka, no doubt. Jimmy Snuka is going to lose this matchup, meaning he will move on to round 3 to stay in competition for worst figure. We've got Dingle Warrior. Dingle Warrior versus Bob Orton. Oddly enough, this is the second Wrestling Writer figure that's part of this collection. And I don't hate the figure. I think more than anything, what got me on this one is, for whatever reason, I was so obsessed with picking up this figure. Like, I missed out on it one time, and then he had it listed again. I don't know if it was a different... If he sold one, and then he repainted one similar, or if this was the same figure, but I threw out like a $50 offer at him, and he jumped at it. I think that's what gets me, because, again, it's not like, if he took the body, put Ultimate Warrior's head on there, that would have been fine, but it's just repainting Greg Valentine, right? So when I look at it, I can't get as much enjoyment from this figure as I want to, because all I see is Greg Valentine with a painted head. And so that kind of killed it for me. And I think in video 1 I mentioned that I wanted to do a much larger scale tournament. At least 64 figures, because 64 breaks down evenly. You know, I could have done like 128 into 64, 64 into 32, etc. 128 figures was... I would have had to use the entire LJN line, and then a good chunk of the original customs. I didn't want to do that. 64 was still impossible, so I try to settle on 32 figures. It still breaks down evenly throughout, but I thought about Bam Bam Bigelow. I thought possibly Ken Patera, only because of the pose. Jake Roberts was a possibility. I thought Elizabeth, but I keep saying Elizabeth to me gets a free ride every time. I can't classify her as anything other than a Barbie doll, so to me it's completely different from the rest of the figures. So I ended up going with Dingle Warrior because I feel like I overpaid on him. Greg Valentine, like I said, you can find on eBay for about $5 or $10. The paint job looks relatively simple for the most part, so I don't think there was a lot of effort that went into this. Not knocking Eric's work, but I love Eric's work, obviously. It's why I buy so many of his figures. And I also talked about how I feel like this is one of those figures that you're going to pay up more because of the person you're buying from. If this was selling on Nathan's site at Ohio Figures, as an example, On auction, I'd probably bid up $10, $12, maybe $15 tops. But because Eric, because, you know, he was, you know, we were friends, because I love his work, because I try to acquire so many of his work, I was willing to pay up more. And that's why I always say it's good to build these relationships with people. You know, build rapport, make friends if you can, because even as a buyer, you know, people are going to work with you more, and they're going to buy more from you. As a seller, wait, did I say that backwards? As a seller, people are willing to pay up more, you know, willing to work with you a little bit better. Same thing with buyers. With buyers, you know, you make those friendships, establish those relationships. Yeah, you're gonna be able to possibly get a better deal from the sellers. So I'm not mad that I got the figure. I'm just simply mad that I paid up so much for it. At the end of the day, do I enjoy Dingle Warrior more than Bob Orton? It's look at it as Greg Valentine versus Bob Orton, right? Greg Valentine, top 5 favorite LJN for me. Bob Orton is... This whole thing is nothing but top 10 original LJNs that are horrible figures. I mean, we've seen Haku. We've seen Jimmy Snuka. We've seen Bob Orton, okay? I'm trying to think who else I've had in the top 10 that we've already seen in this video. Haku, Jimmy Snuka, and yeah, Bob Orton. They were all 3 of them in the last video. I can't remember who I had in the last video, so Iron Sheik was a top 10. Roddy Piper was a top 10. I think if I redid that, Ricky Steamboat would definitely be a top 10 worst LJN original. So I think the only thing that saves this figure is the accessory. The hat accessory is phenomenal. You know, good head sculpt. You know, looks just like the wrestler. Fantastic. And like I said, this is one of those figures that has so much potential. The outfit is great. The overall color scheme is fine. It's just a stupid fighting pose. And it's not just the fact that if his arm was like this, if his arm was like this, it'd be bad. But like this, it just... I mean, what are you supposed to do? Like, backward punch it? I mean, flip someone over... I don't understand the concept of this. If that's what he did in life, great, but come on. People, customizers, random treasures, an example, they're so fixated on type of poses that people made. I mean, Hulk Hogan, he comes into the ring, to, you know, bear hug like that, right? If you create a Hulk Hogan LJN figure with that pose, is that supposed to impress people because that's what he was famous for doing? I mean, no. Regardless of whether or not you're playing with these, it's irrelevant. You want something that's going to be an actual usable figure toy that people that actually play with. I'm sure at some point in life, yes, parents that buy these figures are probably are buying some for their kids. I'm sure not everybody is just simply like me, collecting, putting them on a shelf for display. And, you know, maybe they are. Maybe that's exactly what they're doing. Maybe they're 25 years old and they're buying these. And by age 35, they've got a 6-year-old son, and they want to give their figures to their kid for play because maybe they just lost enjoyment for them or something. Or maybe they want them to enjoy something, you know, vintage to play with or something. I don't know. So, you always got to keep that in mind when you create an action figure. Action figures are toys made for play. That's their sole purpose. And this is, what, a DDT? No, forget that. This is terrible. Bob Orton is horrific. Because Dingle Warrior is Greg Valentine, that's going to save the figure this round. Meaning he is out of this tournament. He will not proceed. And Bob Orton pushes on to round 3. Now, this matchup right here kind of bothers me because it's going to feature Ivan Putski as he takes on Mike Sharp. The reason that this battle is so frustrating is that, in all honesty, I think the 2 potential worst figures ever made, worst LJN figures ever made, are these 2 figures. And they're basically identical figures. Look at that. I mean, the only difference is the fact that Ivan Putski has a little bit of white around his shoes. Hercules Hernandez LJN is an adequate figure. Not the greatest, but at least a little bit more playable. That's basically what this is mimicking. I do not know anything about Mike Sharp. Only thing I know about Sharp is that he's some kind of jobber, like, your original 1-2-3 Kid. 1-2-3 Kid, The Kid, Lightning Kid, L Kid. And I think I mentioned this, that I felt like the 1-2-3 Kid was like really the only person that was, well, no, I can't say that. Because there were a lot of wrestlers that were like jobbers for like other companies and they came to WWF, but they were like immediately thrust into superstar prowess, whereas like 1-2-3 Kid started off as a jobber and then he just beat Razor Ramon and all of a sudden, he's like this mega superstar, battling for tag team championships and in Royal Rumble matches and stuff like that. So Barry Horowitz, I think he beat some guy named Skip or something, and that's how he got thrown into this, not superstar, but more of a star status than jobber status. So Mike Sharp, I don't know if he had any victories under his belt. Did he do his job? Probably. I would think so. I mean, he got his own action figure, so it must be something special. But even if I wanted to sit down and make some wrestling matches and have some squash matches where you have a superstar beat up a jobber and I wanted to have this guy as my job, I can't do anything with this. I mean, you can't even body slam this guy. That's how bad this figure is. He's got there's nothing about this figure that I enjoy. Everything from the shoddy chest hair, which is nothing more than dirt, horrible pose, not even a cartoon look. It's just like some of the most generic design I've seen. I am not pleased with this figure one bit. And it's a reason it took me over a year to buy this. I didn't like the figure. Simple enough. But had to have it for the collection. Ivan Putski, another no-brainer to me. Should be in the semifinals. These two should both be last four standing at worst figures. But one has to be better than the other. I honestly have no clue. No idea. Sharp is a little bit better fighter, maybe. I mean, with this hand position that he has, like literally, I mean, what are you doing with this? No playability. I mean, Ron Simmons and, Vince McMahon with the fused hands to the chest, right? The Macho Man with the fused. At least they got something. Elbow drop. One arm toss over. Something. This Ivan Putski from the 60s through 80s, legend, especially in the NWA days. AWA, I mean, the man was, I don't have any knowledge of him. I've just seen, videos, and I've collected his figures. That's about it. No childhood memories. Nothing that I can really talk about to an extreme. I don't know, man. This is a bad matchup because they both deserve to move on. But I am putting Mike Sharp down. That means I feel like Ivan Putski is a worse figure than Iron Mike Sharp. And I think I would have gone with Putski over Sharp because, he's a little bit bulkier figure and whatnot. But, and, detail, and I think the body, the rubber is adequate. I think the rubber might be a little bit better than Sharp's. But the fighting pose gets me. I still feel like he could, based on who he faces, he could be the worst action figure, worst LJN ever made. Now, with that being said, even though Mike Sharp is out of this tournament and will not proceed to round 3 as the worst LJN ever made, I'm just putting this little disclaimer in there. In my personal opinion, this one belongs in the bottom 4. Should have been in the semifinals for worst figure ever made. This is horrible. luck of the draw. That's all it's about. It's about the luck of the draw. And Sharp lucked out and just found a far superior, terrible figure. Alright. I haven't been writing down these names or anything, so I don't remember the matchups. But so far in round 3, Ram Treasures, Macho Man, Lex Luger, Ivan Putski, and Bob Backlund. And then from Mike, his Owen Hart is in here. And from Eric, his Ric Flair is in here. And from the original line, Bob Orton and Jimmy Snuka is left over. That is a tough one. Do I want to make another video tonight? Man, I really do. Because this is, I want to keep going. This is a lot of fun making these videos. So, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you're enjoying the tournament. And until next time, thanks everyone.